Hello, welcome back to Mancinima. I hope you're all doing very well. We've had a bit of thunder and lightning the last couple of days, haven't we? You know, the summer's on its way out, and you know, the winter obviously and the autumn season is on its way in. And thunder and lightning is actually quite appropriate for the film that I'm going to review for you today. And that is the movie A Haunting in Venice, which is the latest Hercule Poirot movie from Kenneth Branagh. Of course, he did Murder on the Orient Express a few years ago, and most recently Death on the Nile. And this is the latest entry in his Hercule Poirot saga, if you like. So where do we find Poirot at the beginning of this movie? He is retired, he's living in Venice. He's living in this little apartment block, and we see every morning there's a queue of people lining up outside in the street, actually forming a long queue to actually come and see him. And he wants nothing to do with it. He kind of sneaks in and has the door shut behind him. There's a bodyguard that shoos everybody away. And yeah, he just wants to live his life in retirement. He doesn't want to do anything else. He doesn't want to do any more cases. He's not interested in people or talking to people. So yeah, that's the way he's living his life. Until along comes Tina Fey's character called Ariadne. Now she is an author. She presents herself as a friend of Poirot, and he says, "I have no friends." And of course, eventually she wheedles her way in, and she presents a case to him which he finds intriguing. So in this movie, Poirot is hired to test the authenticity of his psychic medium. The psychic medium, Mrs. Reynolds, is played by Michelle Yeoh, recently of Everything Everywhere All at Once, of course. And the bereaved mother that she is going to be talking to is Rowena Drake, and she's played by Kelly Riley. Kelly Riley's daughter was, well, we believe drowned, and it's up to the psychic medium to get in touch with her and find out what the real situation was, whether this is what really happened or whether she was murdered. And of course, along the way, they are all locked in this big gothic, dark building, and of course, people begin to die off. It's a little bit like the 10 Little Indians story, where, you know, one by one they get killed off. Not everybody, but just a few people along the way get killed off while they are locked down in this building. And it's up to Poirot to find out who the murderer is among them. Of course, he locks all the doors, keeps everybody in one place, and he knows that the murderer is actually among them. So that's the basic plot of this movie. Yeah, so how does it fare up against the other two movies that came before? Now, let me just go back in time a little bit. When I was a kid, when we used to get Christmas television, there'd be the Christmas TVs, Radio Times that would come out, and every now and again there'd be an Agatha Christie movie on, and more often than not there'd be one of the Poirot ones. So we had the Albert Finney version of Murder on the Orient Express with an all-star cast, of course, and then Death on the Nile, and then the one that came after that, I believe, was Evil Under the Sun, which is what I thought this next movie was going to be. So it was quite a surprise when we turn around and we get a movie which is kind of got ghostly, supernatural elements to it. And yeah, we didn't get Evil Under the Sun, but we got this one, which is a story I've never heard of before. It's actually based on an Agatha Christie novella called Halloween Party, strangely enough. So this movie, like I say, I didn't really know what to expect from it. If it had been one of the other movies, if it had been Evil Under the Sun, I would have known what to expect from it. So I've gone in completely blind on this one, and I thought, well, I'll just let this one wash over me and see what it is. I'm familiar with the story, and I'm familiar with any other versions of it. So what can I say about it? Unfortunately, this movie kind of drags a little bit. And I'm not the only testament to that. I sat in the cinema, and I must admit, for a couple of seconds I did nod off. I did find it a little bit dreary, so I kind of did nod off, and I looked over to my right, and my wife had nodded off, and I looked out into the audience. There was a couple of people there going, you know, the old heads going down. So it wasn't only me that was feeling this. The film does kind of drag its heels. The other thing that I found a little bit sad and annoying about it is that Poirot is quite miserable throughout this film. You know, he's retired, and he's kind of a little bit grumpy. He doesn't want to be doing things, and yeah, you kind of can't really get invested in him because he doesn't want to do anything. He doesn't want to be Poirot. He doesn't want to be this great detective. And the whole kind of trail of the story basically is to turn him around and get him out of retirement and get him back on the streets and get him back into investigating again. So that's kind of the whole point of the story. But yeah, along the way it kind of drags. It's a little bit dreary. The dark setting within the building can be a little bit too dark at places. Again, it's a common complaint we've had on recent film reviews, is that it's too dark to see what's going on in certain places. There's a lot of flash imagery, kind of, and by that I don't mean bright light flashing. What I mean is that it's kind of fast cut and things like that. So you got dum 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 and things that are going on. There's a lot of that going on. The characters themselves are kind of flat this time out. It's not quite the all-star cast that we've had in previous films. I know we have Michelle Pfeiffer in Murder on the Orient Express. Of course, Daisy Ridley was in that as well. Johnny Depp was in that. Death on the Nile, we have Gal Gadot, of course, and this one seems to be like a watered-down all-star cast. Tina Fey probably being one of the only ones that and Michelle Yeoh, of course, that I recognised. I think Jamie Dornan was in there as well somewhere. But the characters are just kind of flat. They're not really that interesting. They're not that intriguing. The story itself, like I said, drags along a little bit. As a horror fan, I did appreciate some of the ghostly supernatural imagery that was put into the movie. There's a couple of jump scares in there. There's a couple of moments that wouldn't look out of place in a kind of like a PG-13 Friday the 13th movie. I mean, there's people suffering on the end of nasty instruments, but there's no real bloodshed. There's nothing really gory to worry about. There's just moments that might shock you when they happen, you know. So yeah, it's a little bit of a letdown, because I felt that Murder on the Orient Express was a little bit boring as well. I felt that dragged a little bit, and although it had an all-star cast, it wasn't really, you know, they weren't intriguing or interesting enough for me to keep invested in the story. Death on the Nile I felt was a step up. Poirot had a little bit of a twinkle in his eye, seemed like he was enjoying solving the case and getting involved in the meat and the bones of the story. And so yeah, Death on the Nile really raised my interest for this one when I knew that this one was coming out. I thought, oh great, you know, first of all, it's a supernatural kind of slant on Poirot, which, you know, big horror fans, I'm interested in that kind of thing. Poirot's back, he's kind of on the up since Death on the Nile now, so he's a little bit... I found that Kenneth Branagh refined the character a little bit better in Death on the Nile, and I thought, oh great, so we're going to have this detective who knows what he's talking about, and he's got that twinkle in his eye, and he knows how he's going to solve the case. But yeah, unfortunately this one was a little bit of a step down. Poirot is, like I say, for the majority of the film quite miserable. He's quite fed up, doesn't really want to be doing this. And he's kind of battling against his instincts about whether he believes this is supernatural or whether it's somebody playing a trick on him to put that supernatural feeling out there, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it was a little bit of a letdown, this one. It's a little bit dreary, it's a little bit slow. Like I say, characters were a little bit flat. Poirot himself was a bit miserable. And yeah, it's a bit of a shame really, because I was hoping that we were going to go a little bit up from the previous film. Like I say, Death on the Nile, he had that twinkle in his eye, and I was hoping we were going to have that. I'm not going to reveal who the murderers were, but I will say that it was a letdown. The final reveal was a bit of a letdown. Usually when you see these movies, you can see him piecing the puzzle together and putting this in place and that in place, and you're piecing it together yourself. You're going along with Poirot and go, right, that bit of information, I got that bit of information, and you're building up towards the final reveal. Now in this movie, you're kind of getting things going on all the time, but the final reveal just kind of appears out of nowhere, and it feels unearned. It feels like it didn't really work along with the audience to kind of put that in place for you, to show you how he got to that conclusion. It's like he gets to this position and he suddenly turns around and he accuses somebody, and you go, oh, okay, that kind of came out of the blue. So yeah, that was a little bit of a disappointment. You know, it is what it is. Hopefully Kenneth Branagh will continue with this character. I think he's good for the character. I think he's actually a good Poirot. I just hope he finds that twinkle in his eye that he had in Death on the Nile. You know, something that will bring him back to being that kind of the detective who knows what he's doing. He knows he's the best, and he knows that he can solve this case. Like I say, he's a little bit miserable in this one, so hopefully he can find that in whatever the next movie may be. Maybe they will do Evil Under the Sun, who knows, but again, that all depends on how well this one performs at the cinema. Should you go and see this one at the cinema? Again, if you want to, it's not one I would say it's a must-see. It's not one that I would say you must rush out and see at the cinema. Of course, you know that I endorse that you should go to the cinema to see any film and any film possible that you can go and see at the cinema. Always support your cinema. But, you know, if you've got a limited budget and you can't go and see everything that's on every week, then maybe this is one you might want to wait for a couple of months, because it's going to be on Disney Plus now that Fox are owned by Disney, so it's going to be on Disney Plus in a couple of months' time. Maybe sit at home where you're undistracted by other people in the cinema, munching on their popcorn and nodding off around you as I was. And yeah, maybe put it on, you know, one afternoon. You can sit down and enjoy it, and maybe take it in a little bit better. Maybe I'll enjoy it a little bit better once it's on TV rather than I did at the cinema. But yeah, yeah, I'd say it's a wait and see it on streaming if you like. You know, it's not one that I'd recommend that you rush out and see at the cinema. Out of 10, 6 out of 5. 6 out of 5, oh, sorry, 6.5 out of 10 on this one, I would say. Yeah, a little bit of a disappointment, a little bit of a letdown, especially with the supernatural element. I was looking for something more. When they played the trailer initially, it played up the supernatural elements, and then they introduced Poirot. I thought, oh, this is great, we're going to have supernatural Poirot, you know. And it doesn't quite play out that way. It's not as good as I hoped it would have been. But yeah, you know, make your own minds up. Let me know in the comments what you think about that one. So just a brief moment to talk about a movie that I'm going to see tonight on Odeon Scream Unseen. It's called It Lives Inside. I saw it at Fright Fest a few weeks ago. It's about a young girl who lives with her conservative mother and her assimilated father, and she's an American Indian teen, and she's trying to go on at school, and she's got this friend Tamira who carries around a jar, this strange like mason jar, and they're all taking, her friends are all taking the kind of the mick out of, or taking the piss out of, if you like, out of Tamira, and Sam, who's the main girl, feels that it's up to her to kind of become part of that group, if you like, and she smashes Tamira's jar, which she doesn't know unleashes this demon. I think it's called the panache or something like that. And anyway, this begins to then tear her family apart. It kind of tries to attack Tamira, and it tries to attack all of the friends. That's the basic plot. I won't go into it for too much detail, but I will just say the movie opens on Friday at cinemas in England. I thought it was a very intriguing story. I thought the performances were very good. I thought it was tense in moments. I thought there was some great kind of on the edge of your seat moments with this movie. I can't remember too much about it. Like I said, I saw it quite a few weeks ago at Fright Fest now, and there was like 23, 24 other movies that I saw at that festival, so sometimes films interweave in my head and I forget which one's about which. But yeah, from memory, from my notes, I've just had a quick look, and it looks like I really enjoyed it. It Lives Inside. Didn't quite make my top 5 of Fright Fest, but I do recommend this if you want a good kind of intriguing supernatural story to see. If you know, again, if you like your horror movies, this is one that will be opening at the cinemas on Friday, and it's you know, it's original. I thought it was good performances from everybody involved, great direction, nice mood about it. So yeah, I do recommend that you go and see It Lives Inside at the cinema if you are a horror fan. It'll open at the cinemas this Friday. I would give the movie maybe a solid 7 out of 10. I thought it was a pretty good film, like I say, very very intriguing and very on the edge of your seat. So that's everything I've got for you today, unfortunately. Next week we've got Expendables 4 with Jason Statham and Sylvester Stallone back once again. I don't know what that movie's going to be like. It's one of those movies that I'm thinking it might be like Toy Story 4, where it might be a movie too far that we didn't really need or we didn't really ask for, and it's taken too long since the last one. But who knows, maybe I'll enjoy it, and I'll come back and tell you guys about it next week. Okay, in the meantime, thank you for watching this one. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what you think about the two films that I've mentioned today. If you go to see them at the cinema, Haunting in Venice is out now. It Lives Inside opens on Friday. And of course, please give this video the thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. It really does help the channel out. Spreads the algorithm, you know, lets everybody know that we're here. Don't be a thumb bandit, you know, those people who can't tell up from down. Don't do that. Do that. That'd be great, thank you. If you're brand new to the channel, thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe. Got loads of different videos coming up. Loads of weird and strange videos coming up as well. And loads of videos on the channel already that you might want to go back and have a look through. If you're a fan of dinosaurs, loads of stuff there for dinosaurs, including the Jurassic World exhibit that was on at the Excel, and the Natural History Museum and things like that. So there's loads of that. Loads of film reviews, and a couple of location-y kind of things where we go off and visit different places. But in the meantime, thank you very much for watching. I will see you all next time. Take care.